My wife looked me dead in the eye and said she wanted a real man. So I gave her exactly what she asked for. By the end of that week, she was begging me to take her back, but it was already too late. This is the story of how one conversation changed everything, and why sometimes giving someone exactly what they want is the best revenge you never planned. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I'm Marcus Thompson, and 3 months ago I thought I had the perfect marriage. Sarah and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5, living in our dream house in suburban Denver. I worked as a software engineer for a tech startup, pulling in decent money, while Sarah managed a small boutique downtown. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our weekend plans. Everything seemed normal, but normal, as I learned, can be deceiving. It started with small comments. Sarah would watch action movies and sigh about how soft men had become these days. She'd scroll through social media and show me pictures of guys at the gym, talking about how men used to be more masculine back in the day. I brushed it off as random observations, maybe some midlife crisis thing at 32. Then came the comparisons to her friends' husbands. Jake from her yoga class was a firefighter who worked out every day. Tommy from the neighborhood was a contractor who built his own deck. Even her sister's husband, Dave, got praised for being handy around the house because he changed his own oil. Meanwhile, I was apparently the guy who called a plumber when the sink leaked and ordered takeout when the power went out. According to Sarah, I'd become comfortable, and not in a good way. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in March. I'd just gotten home from a particularly brutal day debugging code, looking forward to ordering pizza and watching Netflix with my wife. Sarah was in the kitchen, aggressively chopping vegetables for what looked like an elaborate dinner I hadn't asked for. "Rough day?" I asked, loosening my tie. She didn't look up from the cutting board. "Marcus, we need to talk," those 4 words. Every married man knows them. They're never followed by good news. I sat down at our kitchen island, watching her precise knife work. Sarah had always been intense when she was upset, methodical, controlled, like she was planning a military operation instead of making dinner. "I've been thinking," she said, finally turning to face me, "about us, about what I want in life." "Okay," I said carefully. "What's on your mind?" Sarah set down the knife and crossed her arms. She'd been working out more lately, I noticed. Her arms were more defined than they'd been in years, and she'd started wearing clothes that showed it off. "I want a real man, Marcus." I blinked. "A real man?" "Yes, someone who takes charge. Someone who doesn't need to Google how to jump-start a car or call his mother when he can't figure out the washing machine settings." That last one stung because it had happened exactly once. And it was because her parents had bought us some fancy European washer with controls in 3 languages. Someone, and she continued, gaining momentum, who doesn't spend his weekends playing video games and watching other people play sports. Someone who actually does things, builds things, fixes things, leads. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "So, what are you saying exactly?" "I'm saying I married a boy, not a man. And I'm tired of it." The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Outside, I could hear the Johnsons' dog barking at something in their yard. Normal suburban sounds for what was turning into the most abnormal conversation of my life. "Sarah," I said slowly, "if you're unhappy with something specific, we can work on it. If you want me to learn how to fix the car or take up woodworking or whatever, just tell me. But this feels like you're attacking who I am as a person." She shook her head. "It's not about learning a skill, Marcus. It's about having the instinct. Real men don't need to be told to take charge. They just do it. Real men," I repeated. "As opposed to what? Fake men. As opposed to men who've gotten soft, comfortable. Men who think providing a decent salary is enough to carry a marriage." I stood up, feeling heat rise in my face. "I worked 50 hours a week to pay for this house, your car, your boutique when it was losing money for 2 years straight. I've never missed an anniversary or birthday, never cheated, never lied about money. What exactly makes me not a real man?" The fact that you have to ask, Sarah shot back. A real man would know. We stared at each other across the kitchen island. 8 years of shared history, inside jokes, late-night conversations, and dreams for the future suddenly felt like they were evaporating between us. So what do you want me to do? I asked. Join a fight club? Take up hunting? Start wearing flannel and growing a beard? I want you to want to be better. I want you to have the drive to improve yourself without me having to ask. I want to feel protected and cherished and led, not like I'm in a partnership with someone who needs constant direction. The word partnership came out like it tasted bitter, and if I can't magically transform into this real man you're looking for. Sarah picked up the knife again, went back to chopping vegetables. Then maybe we need to reconsider what we're doing here. I watched her for a long moment. There was something different about her posture, her tone. This wasn't a frustrated wife venting about her husband's quirks. This was someone who'd already made up her mind about something. Is there someone else? I asked quietly. The chopping stopped for just a fraction of a second. This isn't about someone else, Marcus. This is about you not being enough. But that tiny pause told me everything I needed to know. I left the kitchen without another word, went upstairs to our bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed we'd shared for 5 years. The room looked the same. Our photos on the dresser, Sarah's jewelry box, my stack of programming books on the nightstand. But everything feels different now. My phone buzzed. A text from my buddy Jake Chen, asking if I wanted to grab drinks Friday night. Jake was divorced, had been for 2 years. At the time, I'd felt sorry for him and couldn't understand how marriages just fell apart like that. Now, I was starting to get it. I looked around our bedroom again, at the life we'd built together. The mortgage we'd celebrated signing. The vacation photos from Cabo last year. The engagement ring receipt I'd kept in my sock drawer like some kind of romantic souvenir. Sarah wanted a real man. After 8 years together, she'd decided I wasn't one. The thing is, she wasn't wrong about me being comfortable. I had gotten used to routine, to stability, to the predictable rhythm of our life together. I'd stopped trying to impress her the way I had when we were dating. Maybe I'd gotten soft, but sitting there on our bed, thinking about her demand, and that telling pause when I asked about someone else, I realized something important. I was about to find out exactly how real of a man I could be, just not in the way Sarah was expecting. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay there listening to Sarah breathe beside me, wondering when exactly we'd become strangers, sharing a bed. Around 3 a.m., I gave up pretending and went downstairs to my home office. That's when I decided to do something I'd never done before. I started investigating my own wife. It felt wrong at first, like I was violating some sacred trust. But then I remembered that pause when I asked about someone else, and the wrongness faded into something that felt more like necessity. I started with her phone records. We shared a family plan, so I had access to the account. What I found made my stomach drop. Over the past 2 months, there were hundreds of texts and calls to a number I didn't recognize. Most of them happened during work hours, but plenty were late at night after I'd gone to bed. The number belonged to someone named Ryan Martinez. A quick Google search revealed Ryan Martinez, personal trainer at Elite Fitness downtown, the same gym where Sarah had started her new workout routine 3 months ago. His Instagram was public, and scrolling through it was like looking at Sarah's definition of a real man come to life. Ryan was built like a superhero. Every photo showed him doing something aggressively masculine, deadlifting enormous weights, rock climbing without a shirt, posing with a motorcycle, teaching self-defense classes. His bio read, helping people unlock their strongest selves. DM for training inquiries. I bet he got a lot of DMs, but what really got to me were the comments. Recent ones from an account I recognized, a Sarah Styles boutique. Heart eyes emojis, fire emojis. Comments like goals and inspiring as always. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. My wife was publicly flirting with her trainer on social media. I spent the next hour going through everything. Her credit card statements showed charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, always on days when she said she was working late. New lingerie purchases from stores she'd never shopped at before. A hotel charge from last weekend when she claimed to be at a business conference in Colorado Springs. The conference that, according to a 5-minute search, didn't exist. By the time the sun came up, I had a clear picture. Sarah wasn't just dissatisfied with our marriage. She was already living a different life with someone else. Someone who apparently met her definition of masculine. I made coffee and sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where she'd delivered her ultimatum 12 hours earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. She wanted a real man, someone who takes charge and leads. Well, she was about to get one. But first, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I called in sick to work, something I'd done maybe 5 times in 8 years, and drove to Elite Fitness. The gym was in a trendy part of downtown Denver, all glass and steel and motivational quotes painted on exposed brick walls. The kind of place where memberships cost more than most people's car payments. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see Ryan in action. He was training a middle-aged woman who was clearly struggling with squats, and his technique was interesting. Lots of physical guidance. Hands on hips to adjust position. Standing close behind her to spot the movement. Very hands-on coaching style. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, watching him work with different clients. All women. All getting the same touchy-feely training approach. This guy wasn't just a personal trainer. He was running some kind of operation. That's when I saw Sarah's BMW pull into the parking lot. She was wearing workout clothes I'd never seen before. Designer leggings that probably cost more than my monthly gym membership. A sports bra that left very little to the imagination. And her hair done in some elaborate braid that must have taken an hour to create. She wasn't dressed for a workout. She was dressed for a date. I watched her walk into the gym, watched Ryan's face light up when he saw her, watched him excuse himself from his current client to give Sarah his full attention. They didn't hug, too public for that, but their body language told the whole story. This wasn't new. This had been going on for a while. I drove home feeling strangely calm. The uncertainty was gone. The gaslighting was over. Sarah wasn't unhappy because I wasn't masculine enough. She was unhappy because she'd already found someone else, and now she needed to justify it. Back at home, I did something I'd been putting off for months. I cleaned out our shared office space. Sarah had been gradually taking it over, claiming she needed more room for boutique paperwork. What she actually needed was privacy. In the back of what used to be my filing cabinet, I found printed emails between her and Ryan going back 4 months. The early ones were innocent enough. Workout schedules, nutrition advice, motivational quotes. But they escalated quickly. By month 2, they were discussing their connection and how Sarah deserved someone who appreciated her strength. By month 3, Ryan was telling her she was wasted on a man who couldn't match her energy. The most recent email, dated just 3 days ago, was Ryan suggesting they take things to the next level and that Sarah should make some decisions about her future. She'd already made her decisions. She just hadn't bothered to inform me yet. That evening, Sarah came home glowing from her workout. She was chattier than she'd been in weeks. Asking about my day, suggesting we order dinner from that Thai place we both liked. Classic guilty behavior, overcompensating for what she'd been doing behind my back. How was the gym? I asked casually. Good. Really good. Ryan's pushing me to try new things, step outside my comfort zone. It's exactly what I needed. I'm sure it was. That's great, honey. You seem really happy lately. She smiled, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 8 years ago. I am happy, Marcus. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm becoming who I'm supposed to be, who she was supposed to be, apparently, was someone else's girlfriend. We ordered dinner and ate it while watching a movie, playing the part of a normal married couple. Sarah even curled up next to me on the couch, something she hadn't done in months. The whole performance was so convincing that if I didn't know what I knew, I might have thought we were getting back on track. But I did know. And that changed everything. After Sarah went to bed, I sat in my home office and made a list. Not a list of everything that was wrong with our marriage, or all the ways I could try to win her back, or some plan to confront Ryan Martinez. I made a list of everything I needed to do to protect myself. Tomorrow, I was going to give Sarah exactly what she'd asked for, a real man who takes charge and makes decisions. The kind of man who doesn't wait around for someone else to determine his worth. She wanted decisive action. She was about to get it. But first, I had a phone call to make. The phone call I made that night was to my college roommate, David Park. Dave had gone to law school while I went into tech, and now he was a partner at one of Denver's most respected family law firms. We'd stayed close over the years, but I'd never imagined I'd be calling him for professional reasons. Marcus, it's almost midnight, man. Is everything okay? Dave, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. If someone wanted the best divorce attorney in Denver, someone who could handle a complex case with hidden assets and potential adultery, who would they call? There was a long pause. Are we talking hypothetically here? We're talking about Sarah filing for divorce in the next few weeks, and me needing to be 3 steps ahead of her when she does. Another pause. Meet me for breakfast tomorrow. Denny's on Colfax, 7 a.m. And Marcus, don't do anything stupid between now and then. I hung up and spent the rest of the night organizing my evidence. Photos, bank statements, phone records, emails, everything I'd discovered about Sarah's secret life laid out like a case file. By morning, I had enough documentation to prove adultery, financial deception, and breach of marital trust. But more importantly, I had a plan. Dave was already waiting in a corner booth when I arrived at Denny's, looking like he'd been up as late as I had. He'd ordered coffee for both of us and had a legal pad covered in notes. Before you say anything, he started, I'm not taking your case. Conflict of interest. Sarah's boutique uses our firm for some contract work. But I know exactly who you need. He slid a business card across the table. Victoria Sterling. She's ruthless, brilliant, and specializes in cases where one spouse has been deceiving the other. She's also expensive as hell, but from what you told me last night, you're going to need the best. I looked at the card. Sterling and Associates, family law, an address in the upscale Cherry Creek business district. Dave, what are the chances Sarah's already talked to a lawyer? High. People don't usually have I want a real man conversations unless they've already started planning their exit strategy. She's probably been getting legal advice for weeks. That made sense. The timeline fit with when her behavior had shifted from subtle dissatisfaction to open criticism. So what do? Dave leaned forward. You do exactly what any smart businessman would do when he discovers his partner has been embezzling and planning to steal half the company. You protect your assets, document everything, and you strike first. I called Victoria Sterling's office from the Denny's parking lot. Her secretary said she could see me that afternoon if it was urgent. I told her it was very urgent. Sterling and Associates occupied the entire 15th floor of a glass tower in Cherry Creek. The waiting room looked like something from a luxury hotel, all marble and leather and floor-to-ceiling windows with mountain views. This was clearly where Denver's wealthy came when their marriages fell apart. Victoria Sterling herself was exactly what I'd expected. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and the kind of confidence that comes from winning battles most people don't even know they're fighting. She was probably in her 50s, with silver hair pulled back in a perfect chignon and a handshake that could crack walnuts. Mr. Thompson, I understand you have a situation that requires immediate attention. I handed her my file of evidence. My wife is having an affair with her personal trainer, has been lying about her whereabouts and spending our money on their relationship, and I believe she's planning to file for divorce while making me look like the bad guy. Victoria spent 20 minutes reviewing my documentation, making occasional notes on her legal pad. When she finished, she looked up with something that might have been approved. This is excellent work. Very thorough. Most people come in here with suspicions and hurt feelings. You've come in with a case, so what are my options? Well, you could confront her, demand counseling, try to work things out. But based on this evidence, your wife checked out of this marriage months ago. She's just been managing the transition. What about fighting for marriage? Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? Victoria leaned back in her chair. Mr. Thompson, I've been doing this for 25 years. I can tell you that marriages survive infidelity when both people want to rebuild. But your wife isn't just cheating. She's rewriting history to make you the villain in her story. She needs you to be inadequate to justify what she's doing. That hit harder than I expected. So what do you recommend? I recommend you give her exactly what she wants, but on your terms. She wants out? Fine. But she doesn't get to take half of everything you've built while painting herself as the victim of an unhappy marriage. Victoria opened her laptop and pulled up what looked like a complex legal document. Colorado is a no-fault divorce state, which means adultery doesn't automatically affect asset division, but it can influence alimony, especially when combined with financial misconduct. Your wife has been spending marital assets on her affair. Those restaurant charges, the hotel room, even the expensive workout clothes. That's the dissipation of marital funds. What does that mean in practical terms? It means she pays you back for every dollar she spent on her boyfriend, plus penalties. It also means she gets less in the final settlement. Much less. I felt something loosen in my chest. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't playing defense. But here's the beautiful part, Victoria continued. We're not going to file first. We're going to let her think she's in control. Let her make the first move. Then we're going to respond with everything we have. Won't that put me at a disadvantage? On the contrary, she's going to file thinking she has all the power, that you're just some passive guy who won't fight back. She's going to ask for alimony, half the house, half your retirement accounts. She might even try to claim the boutique, which you've been subsidizing for years, has increased in value due to her efforts. Victoria smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. Then we're going to present our evidence and watch her whole narrative collapse. We spent the next hour going over strategy. Victoria would have her investigators compile additional evidence while we waited for Sarah to make her move. I would continue acting normal at home, maybe even being extra accommodating to avoid tipping her off. The goal, Victoria explained, is to let her commit to a position before she knows what we know. Once she's on record asking for specific assets and making specific claims about the marriage, we destroy those claims with facts. I walked out of that office feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Powerful. Not because I was planning to hurt Sarah, but because I was finally taking control of my own situation. Sarah wanted a real man. Someone who takes charge and makes decisions. Someone who doesn't just accept whatever life hands him. She was about to meet him. That evening I stopped at the grocery store and picked up ingredients for Sarah's favorite dinner. If I was going to play the part of the oblivious husband for a few more weeks, I might as well make it convincing. When I got home, Sarah was on the couch with her laptop. Probably texting Ryan. She looked up with surprise when she saw the grocery bags. What's all this? I thought I'd make that pasta dish you love. The one with the mushrooms and the wine sauce. Her expression softened. Marcus, that's so sweet. You don't have to. I want to. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday about us, about what you need. Maybe I have gotten too comfortable. Maybe I should put more effort into making you happy. It was the performance of my life. Sarah actually teared up a little. I love you, she said. And for a moment, she might have even meant it. I love you too, I replied, and I realized that despite everything, part of me still did. But love wasn't going to be enough to save what she'd already destroyed. The next 2 weeks were the strangest of my life. During the day, I played the perfect husband, attentive, romantic, seemingly oblivious to what was happening right under my nose. At night, while Sarah slept beside me, I worked with Victoria's investigators to build an airtight case. The private investigator Victoria recommended was a former police detective named Janet Walsh. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who treated infidelity cases like criminal investigations, which in a way they were. Janet's first report arrived via encrypted email 3 days after our initial meeting. The subject line simply read, "Target acquired." Ryan Martinez wasn't just Sarah's personal trainer, he was a professional home wrecker. Janet had identified at least 4 other married women who'd been trained by Ryan in the past 2 years. 3 of those marriages had ended in divorce, with Ryan dating each woman for a few months before moving on to the next client. Classic pattern, Janet explained during our phone briefing. He targets unhappy wives with money, makes them feel special and desired, convinces them their husbands don't appreciate them. Once the divorce is finalized and he's helped them transition, he disappears. So Sarah isn't special to him. "Mr. Thompson, your wife is a paycheck with benefits." Ryan's been telling her exactly what she wants to hear, but he's been feeding the same lines to Mrs. Patterson, Mrs. Rodriguez, and Mrs. Chen, sometimes on the same day. That should have made me feel better. But it didn't. If anything, it made me angrier. Sarah was destroying our 8-year marriage for a guy who saw her as a temporary income source. Meanwhile, at home, Sarah was becoming increasingly affectionate. She cooked elaborate dinners, suggested weekend getaways, even initiated intimacy more than she had in months. It was like she was either having second thoughts or trying to assuage her guilt before making her move. The breakthrough came on a Thursday evening. I was working late in my home office when I heard Sarah on the phone in our bedroom speaking in the low, intimate tones people use when they think no one can hear them. Victoria had suggested I install a voice-activated recording app on my phone for exactly this situation. I grabbed the device and crept closer to our bedroom door. "I know, baby, but I have to be smart about this," Sarah was saying. "If I rush things, he might get suspicious and hide assets or something." A pause while Ryan responded, "No, he's not that clever. But his friend David is a lawyer, and if Marcus gets paranoid, he might ask for advice. I need everything to look like it's coming from me being unhappy, not from us being together." Another pause. "The papers are ready. My lawyer says we should have everything wrapped up in 60 days, maybe less if he doesn't contest anything. And why would he? He thinks we're working on our marriage." My blood went cold. She'd already filed the papers. I know it's hard pretending, but think about the payout. Half the house, alimony for at least 3 years, plus my settlement from the boutique. We're talking about almost 400,000, Ryan. That's enough for you to open your own gym and for us to start fresh somewhere new. I'd heard enough. I crept back to my office and immediately called Victoria's emergency line. "She's already filed," I whispered, "and she's planning to relocate with him after the divorce." "Calm down, Marcus. This is actually good news. She's committed to her story now." "When were you served?" "I haven't been served yet. Then she filed but hasn't had you served with papers. She's probably waiting for the right moment for maximum emotional impact." "Do you have the conversation recorded?" "Yes, perfect. Send it to me immediately. That recording just saved you about $200,000. I spent the next hour forwarding Janet's reports and my new recording to Victoria. By morning, she'd crafted our response strategy. "Here's what's going to happen," Victoria explained over the phone. "When Sarah has you served, probably this weekend, based on typical patterns, you're going to react exactly like she expects. Shock, hurt, maybe some begging. Let her think she's in complete control. That's going to be hard to fake. You won't have to fake the hurt, Marcus. Even when you know it's coming, divorce papers hit hard. Just don't fake anything else. Don't promise to change. Don't ask for counseling. Don't give her any ammunition to claim you were emotionally manipulative." "What about her demands?" "She's asking for alimony, half of everything. And she wants to keep the boutique while claiming you owe her for supporting her dream. She's also claiming emotional distress and wants you to pay her legal fees." I felt my jaw clench. "Can she get all that?" "Not after we present our evidence. Sarah's about to learn that adultery cases aren't just about who slept with whom. They're about credibility. And your wife's credibility is about to be demolished in front of a judge." The papers came on Friday evening, just as Victoria had predicted. I was in the garage organizing tools, a therapeutic activity that had become my way of dealing with stress, when Sarah appeared in the doorway, holding a manila envelope. "Marcus, we need to talk." I looked at the envelope and knew exactly what it contained, but I also knew I had to play my part. "What's that?" She took a deep breath, like she was steeling herself for something difficult. "I've filed for divorce." The words hung in the air between us. Even knowing they were coming, hearing them out loud felt like being punched in the stomach. "What?" I set down the wrench I was holding and stared at her. "Sarah, what are you talking about?" "I thought we were working on things. I thought the dinners and the talks and everything these past couple weeks meant we were getting back on track." She looked genuinely pained, which was almost worse than if she'd been cold about it. "Those weeks just confirm what I already knew. You're a good man, Marcus, but we want different things. We've grown in different directions. So you filed for divorce? Without even talking to me about it first?" "We did talk about it. That night in the kitchen, when I told you I wanted a real man. That was me trying to tell you this wasn't working. I took the envelope with my hands so that I didn't have to fake shaking." "Sarah, this is crazy. We can fix this. Whatever's wrong, we can work on it together. Maybe counseling, maybe it's too late for that." She was crying now, real tears that might have moved me if I didn't know about Ryan Martinez. "I've already moved out most of my things. I'm staying with my sister until we can work out the details." I looked around the garage, suddenly noticing that some of Sarah's storage boxes were missing. She'd been planning this for days, moving her belongings out while I was at work. "How long have you been planning this?" "Does it matter?" It mattered more than she could possibly know, but I couldn't tell her that. "I love you, Sarah. I know I'm not perfect, but I love you, and I thought you loved me too. I do love you. That's what makes this so hard." She wiped her eyes. "But loving someone and being right for them aren't the same thing. You deserve someone who accepts you exactly as you are. And I deserve someone who makes me feel alive. Someone like Ryan Martinez, who made her feel so alive he was charging her for the privilege. After she left, I sat in my empty garage and called Victoria. How did I do?" "Perfect. Hurt but not angry. Confused but not suspicious. She's going to tell her lawyer you took it better than expected, which means they'll stick with their original demands." What happens now? Now we wait for discovery to begin, and then we destroy her case piece by piece. By the time we're done, Sarah's going to wish she'd asked for counseling instead. That night, alone in the house Sarah and I had bought together, I realized something important. I wasn't the same man who'd been blindsided by his wife's demands 2 weeks ago. I'd become exactly what she'd asked for. Someone who took charge, made decisions, and didn't wait for life to happen to him. She just wasn't going to like what I'd decided. The legal discovery process began 3 weeks after I was served with divorce papers. Sarah's attorney, a middle-aged man named Kenneth Walsh, who specialized in representing wronged spouses, had submitted their initial demands with the confidence of someone who thought he was holding all the cards. They wanted half of everything: the house, my retirement accounts, my stock options from the startup, even half the value of my car. Sarah was asking for 3 years of alimony at $4,000 per month. She claimed emotional distress and wanted me to pay her legal fees. Most audaciously, she wanted to keep the boutique while demanding I compensate her for the lost income potential I'd caused by not supporting her business dreams adequately. According to their filing, I was an emotionally distant husband who had failed to meet my wife's needs and had driven her to seek fulfillment elsewhere. The document painted me as a workaholic who prioritized career over family, a man who had become complacent and had allowed his marriage to deteriorate through neglect. Victoria read their demands over the phone with undisguised glee. "Marcus, they've given us everything we need. Look at this language." The respondents' failure to grow emotionally and personally created an environment where the petitioner felt unloved and unappreciated. They're literally arguing that your personality is grounds for alimony. Is that a bad legal strategy? It's a catastrophic legal strategy when the petitioner has been having an affair for 4 months and spending marital assets on her boyfriend. They've made this about character and emotional fitness. We're about to show the court exactly whose character is in question. The first settlement conference was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in late April. Sarah arrived with Kenneth Walsh, looking polished and confident in a navy blue suit I'd never seen before. She nodded at me politely but didn't make eye contact, playing the part of the wounded wife perfectly. Victoria had briefed me extensively on courtroom behavior. Stay calm, look hurt but dignified, don't react to anything they say. Let them present their case first. The bigger the hole they dig, the harder they'll fall. The mediator, Judge Patricia Morrison, reviewed both sides' initial positions and started with standard questions about assets and timeline. Sarah's attorney presented their case first, painting a picture of a marriage destroyed by my emotional unavailability and career obsession. Your Honor, Walsh said, Mrs. Thompson tried for years to communicate her needs to her husband. She attempted to inspire him to grow personally and professionally. When those efforts failed, she was forced to find emotional support elsewhere. Judge Morrison raised an eyebrow. When you say elsewhere, Mr. Walsh, are you referring to another relationship? My client did form a connection with someone who appreciated her strength and vitality, yes. But this was the result of her husband's neglect, not the cause of the marriage's breakdown. I watched Sarah nod along with her lawyer's presentation. She genuinely seemed to believe this version of events. Then Victoria stood up. Your Honor, before we respond to petitioner's demands, I'd like to present some evidence that may clarify the actual timeline and circumstances of this marriage's dissolution. Victoria opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. We have documented evidence that Mrs. Thompson began her extramarital relationship 4 months ago, not as a result of marital breakdown, but as a calculated plan to exit her marriage with maximum financial benefit. Walsh objected immediately. Your Honor, the timing of my client's relationship is irrelevant in a no-fault state. The timing becomes relevant, Victoria interrupted, when the petitioner has been systematically transferring marital assets to fund this relationship, while simultaneously planning to claim those same assets in divorce proceedings. Judge Morrison leaned forward. What kind of evidence are you presenting, Ms. Sterling? Phone records showing over 2,000 communications between Mrs. Thompson and her paramour, Ryan Martinez. Credit card statements showing expenditures at upscale hotels and restaurants during times when Mrs. Thompson told her husband she was working. Bank records showing cash withdrawals of over $15,000 that were used to pay for Mr. Martinez's personal expenses, including his motorcycle payments and rent. I watched Sarah's face go pale. Kenneth Walsh was frantically scribbling notes, clearly unprepared for this level of documentation. We also have recorded conversations, Victoria continued, where Mrs. Thompson discusses her financial plans for the divorce settlement, including her intention to relocate with Mr. Martinez and fund his business ventures with the marital assets she hoped to obtain. Your Honor, Walsh stood up. We weren't made aware of any recordings because you didn't ask, Victoria replied smoothly. All evidence was obtained legally and will be provided in discovery. But there's more. Victoria pulled out another set of documents. We've also discovered that Mr. Martinez has a pattern of targeting married women through his personal training business. Our investigation has identified 4 other clients whose marriages ended after beginning training with Mr. Martinez, all of whom provided him with financial support during and after their divorces. Judge Morrison looked at Sarah with something between surprise and disapproval. Mrs. Thompson, are you aware of these allegations? Sarah stammered, This is... Ryan, never. I had no idea about other women, but you were aware that you were using marital funds to support Mr. Martinez financially. The question hung in the air. Sarah looked at her attorney, who was clearly calculating whether to cut losses or double down. My client may have occasionally helped a friend, Walsh said weakly. To the tune of $15,000, Victoria added helpfully, while simultaneously claiming financial distress and asking for alimony. The first conference ended with Judge Morrison ordering a full financial disclosure from both parties and scheduling a follow-up hearing in 3 weeks. As we left the courthouse, I could hear Sarah arguing with her attorney in the hallway. "You said this would be straightforward," she was saying. "You said he wouldn't fight back." That evening, Victoria called with an update. Sarah's attorney wants to meet tomorrow. They're looking to settle out of court. What kind of settlement? They're dropping the alimony demand and reducing their asset requests by about 60%. They also want to include a non-disclosure agreement preventing you from discussing Ryan Martinez publicly. What do you think? I think we should counteroffer. They're scared, which means we have more leverage than they're admitting. The settlement negotiations took place over the next 2 weeks. What had started as Sarah demanding $400,000 in assets and ongoing support had been whittled down to a much more reasonable division of property and zero alimony. But the real victory came when Sarah's world with Ryan Martinez began to crumble. Janet Walsh called me on a Friday afternoon with news that was almost too perfect to believe. "Mr. Thompson, you're going to want to sit down for this. What did you find?" Ryan Martinez cleaned out his apartment 3 days ago. Apparently, one of his other clients, Mrs. Patterson, discovered he was seeing multiple women simultaneously and decided to share that information with everyone involved. I felt a mix of satisfaction and genuine pity for Sarah. So he's gone? Completely. Left Denver entirely. Mrs. Patterson's divorce was finalized last month, and she'd been giving him money to start their new life together. When she found out about Sarah and the others, she demanded her money back. When he couldn't pay, she threatened to press charges for fraud. What about Sarah? That's the interesting part. She tried to contact him yesterday and discovered his phone number was disconnected. She drove to his apartment and found it empty. She then went to Elite Fitness and learned he'd quit without notice. The man Sarah had destroyed her marriage for had vanished the moment things got complicated. 2 days later, Sarah called me for the first time since the divorce proceedings began. Her voice was small, defeated. "Marcus, can we talk?" In person, we met at a coffee shop near our old house. Sarah looked exhausted, like she hadn't been sleeping well. She'd lost weight and not in a healthy way. "I know you probably hate me," she began, "but I need you to know that I never meant for things to happen this way." "How did you mean for them to happen, Sarah?" She stared into her coffee cup. "I thought I was unhappy because you weren't enough for me. I thought I needed someone more exciting, more dynamic, someone who would challenge me and make me feel alive. And now I realize I wasn't unhappy with you. I was just bored with myself. And instead of working on that, I blamed you for not fixing it for me." It was the first honest thing she'd said to me in months. "Ryan's gone," she continued. "Just disappeared. I gave him money, Marcus. Thousands of dollars of our money, and he just left. I feel so stupid. I know about the money, Sarah. I know about all of it." She looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've known about Ryan since the day after you told me you wanted a real man. I hired investigators. I documented everything. The hotels, the restaurants, the cash withdrawals, the phone calls, all of it." Sarah's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, embarrassment, and then something that looked like respect. "You knew all along? During those weeks when you were being so sweet and attentive?" "I knew, but you didn't say anything. You just let me make my choices. I gave you exactly what you asked for, Sarah. You wanted a real man, someone who takes charge and makes decisions. Someone who doesn't just react to life but controls it. So I became that man." She was quiet for a long moment. "I destroyed everything, didn't I?" "You made choices. Actions have consequences. Marcus, I know this is probably impossible, but is there any chance? Could we try again? I know I don't deserve it, but Sarah, you didn't just cheat on me. You planned to take half of everything I've worked for while claiming I was the problem in our marriage. You were going to paint me as an inadequate husband to justify stealing from me. That's not a mistake, that's a character issue." She started crying then, real tears of regret and loss. I know, and I'm so sorry. I thought I wanted something different, but what I really wanted was just to feel important. Ryan made me feel special, and I got addicted to that feeling. Ryan made 4 other women feel special too, Sarah. At the same time, he was making you feel special. You weren't important to him. You were profitable. The final divorce hearing was a formality. Sarah had agreed to our settlement terms, an even split of the house proceeds. She kept the boutique, but assumed all its debts, no alimony, and a mutual non-disclosure agreement. She also had to repay the $15,000 she'd given to Ryan from our joint accounts. As we left the courthouse, as divorced individuals, Sarah stopped me on the steps. "Marcus, I need you to know something. You are a real man. You're more of a man than I ever gave you credit for. I'm sorry it took me destroying our marriage to figure that out. I'm sorry too, Sarah. I'm sorry you had to lose everything to learn what you already had. 6 months later, I was living in a downtown condo with mountain views and dating a software developer named Lisa, who appreciated my quiet confidence and steady reliability. Sarah had moved back in with her parents after the boutique failed. Apparently, I'd been subsidizing more of her business expenses than either of us had. I heard through mutual friends that she'd started therapy and was working as a sales associate at a department store while trying to rebuild her credit. Part of me hoped she'd find whatever she was looking for, as long as it wasn't at someone else's expense. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sarah had demanded a real man, someone decisive and strong, who wouldn't just accept whatever life handed him. In trying to destroy me, she'd created exactly what she'd asked for. I'd learned to take control of my life, to protect what mattered to me, and to never again mistake someone's dissatisfaction with themselves for a problem I needed to solve. Sarah had wanted a real man, and I'd become one, just not in the way she'd expected. The best revenge really is living well, and sometimes giving people exactly what they ask for is the most satisfying response of all. Looking back, I realized that Sarah had done me a favor. She'd forced me to discover strength I didn't know I had, taught me to value myself properly, and shown me what real partnership looked like by demonstrating its opposite. She'd asked for a real man, and I'd given her one. The fact that she couldn't handle what she'd requested wasn't my problem anymore. Sometimes, the best way to win is simply to become worthy of victory. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.